Imagine trying to manage a group project with 50 million people. Back in 500 BC, that wasn't just a big number. That was 44% of the entire human population on Earth. Welcome to the Achaemenid Persian Empire, the largest superpower the ancient world had ever seen. Stretching from the edge of India all the way to the Balkans, it was a logistical nightmare waiting to happen. For context, their Roman rivals were just a tiny speck on the map, probably still trying to figure out basic plumbing. So here is the ultimate question. How do you rule half the world without the internet? No smartphones, no fiber optics, not even a decent postal system. Yet, if an average person tried to run this, the whole empire would burst into flames within about 5 minutes. You have taxes to collect, borders to defend, and dozens of different cultures who probably want to kill each other. But the Persians didn't just survive, they thrived. And it all started with the brilliant mind of Cyrus the Great. Cyrus knew that swinging swords and conquering cities was only the easy part of building an empire. The real challenge was the paperwork, or, well, the clay tablet work. To solve this impossible puzzle, the Persians invented the most advanced administrative machine in history. A system of local governors, extreme taxation, and a terrifying ancient secret police. It's time to see how one king sliced up the world's biggest pie and kept everyone from eating each other. Enter Darius the Great. He looked at this massive, chaotic empire and realized one thing. He could not micromanage all of this. So he did exactly what any stressed-out modern CEO would do. He delegated. Darius took the entire Achaemenid Empire and chopped it up into roughly 20 massive provinces. These provinces were called satrapies. Think of them as ancient states or territories, just with way more sand and camels. For each satrapy, Darius appointed a local governor, officially known as a satrap. These satraps were usually hand-picked Persian nobles, military elites, or literal relatives of the king. Their job description was actually pretty simple on paper. Keep the local population happy, stop any rebellions, and most importantly, collect the taxes. Oh yes, Darius was incredibly serious about his money. Each satrapy was assigned a strict, fixed annual tribute they had to send back to the capital. Richer provinces paid their dues in pure silver and gold dust. Others paid in kind, sending thousands of horses, exotic grains, or even ebony wood. As long as the satrap sent the annual check on time, they basically got to live like local kings in their own mini palaces. But, as history constantly proves, giving a guy absolute power in a distant province away from the boss usually leads to some very bad ideas. You see, the Achaemenid Empire was vast, like really, really vast. It could take months for a message from the capital to reach the outer provinces. This massive distance created a huge blind spot for the king. A corrupt satrap could easily start skimming a little off the top of those tax collections. 1 gold coin for the king, 2 gold coins for me. Simple math. With that extra stolen wealth, a satrap might decide he needs better security. Suddenly, he is not just hiring local guards, he is raising his own private army. He starts wearing fancier robes and minting his own local coins with his own face on them. He throws massive banquets that rival the king's own parties back in Persepolis. And before you know it, he conveniently forgets to send the annual tribute altogether. He looks at his shiny new army, looks at his massive pile of hoarded gold, and thinks, why am I taking orders from a guy living 2,000 miles away? Boom! Just like that, you have a full-scale rebellion on your hands. In any normal ancient empire, this would be the exact moment the empire fractures and dies. But Darius was paranoid, and it turns out, being deeply paranoid makes you an excellent administrator. So how did Darius stop his governors from turning into rebellious local kings? He created the ancient world's very first intelligence agency. They were officially known as the eyes and ears of the king. These were elite inspectors, spies, and auditors who reported directly to Darius. A satrap might think he was perfectly safe hoarding gold in his secret treasury, but that innocent-looking peasant sweeping the floor? Probably a spy. That decorative clay pot in the corner? Yeah, there's a guy in there, taking notes. The eyes and ears traveled across the empire, constantly conducting surprise audits. They would show up unannounced, backed by a personal military escort. Their job was to check the accounting books and listen to local complaints. If a satrap was found guilty of corruption or plotting a revolt, let's just say his retirement plan involved a very sharp sword and a shallow grave. This constant paranoia kept the governors completely in check. You can't start a rebellion if you can't even trust your own servants. But having a massive network of spies is useless if their reports take a year to reach the king. To fix this communication nightmare, Darius didn't just build a road. He built the ancient world's first superhighway. Welcome to the Royal Road. A massive, protected route stretching over 2,700 kilometers from Susa to Sardis. But a long road is still just dirt and rocks. The real genius was the relay system. Darius set up exactly 111 rest stations spaced about a day's ride apart along the entire route. At each station, fresh, well-fed horses and rested riders were always standing by, ready to go. When a royal messenger arrived, completely exhausted and covered in dust, he wouldn't stop to rest. He would immediately pass the message pouch to the next guy. The new rider would jump on a fresh horse and sprint to the next station at full speed. It was basically an ancient relay race, but with imperial secrets instead of a baton. Before this system, a normal traveler would take about 3 months to cross the empire. The royal messengers? They could do it in 7 to 9 days. That speed was absolutely mind-blowing for the ancient world. The Greek historian Herodotus was so impressed he wrote, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers." Sound familiar? Yeah, the United States Postal Service basically stole their motto from a bunch of ancient Persian stick figures. With the Royal Road, the king could send orders, move troops, and receive spy reports faster than anyone else on Earth. But maintaining superhighways, private armies, and a massive spy network is not cheap. To keep the empire running, Darius needed a healthy, booming economy. The problem was, before Darius came along, international trade was an absolute disaster. Imagine trying to buy a nice Persian rug, but you only have Egyptian wheat, and the seller only wants Indian spices. It was a chaotic mess of bartering cows for wood and wood for sheep. Furthermore, every local kingdom had its own weird currency and completely different measuring systems. Darius looked at this chaos and said, "Nope, we are doing this my way." He introduced a universal solution that changed world history: the daric. The daric was a thick, standardized gold coin, stamped with an image of the king holding a bow. It contained exactly 8.4 grams of pure gold. Not roughly, not almost, exactly. Along with the gold daric and the silver siglos, Darius standardized weights and measures across the entire empire. Suddenly, commerce wasn't just local, it was global. An Indian spice trader could easily do business with an Egyptian farmer because they both trusted the same gold coin. This created the first true global economy, transforming the Persian Empire into an absolute economic powerhouse. The king wasn't just sitting on a throne anymore. He was practically swimming in a giant pool of gold. So we have money, roads, and spies. But there was one more secret weapon that held the Persian Empire together. And surprisingly, it wasn't a giant army or a terrifying torture device. It was being incredibly nice. Back in the ancient world, conquering a city usually meant burning it to the ground and enslaving everyone. The Assyrians and Babylonians were famous for this brutal approach. But Cyrus the Great realized that terrorizing your subjects just makes them want to stab you in your sleep. When Cyrus conquered Babylon in 539 BC, he did the unthinkable. He didn't burn the city. He didn't enslave the population. Instead, he issued what is now known as the Cyrus Cylinder. It was essentially the world's first declaration of human rights. Cyrus freed the enslaved Jewish people, allowing them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. He let conquered nations keep their own languages, their own cultures, and their own gods. As long as you paid your taxes and didn't start a rebellion, the Persians mostly left you alone. This policy of religious and cultural tolerance was a massive game changer. Cities literally opened their gates and surrendered to Cyrus without a fight, just because he had a reputation for not being a murderous tyrant. But as with all great empires, the Achaemenid Persian superpower eventually had to fall. About 200 years after Cyrus, a young Greek kid named Alexander the Great showed up. Alexander swept through the Middle East like a hurricane, completely crushing the Persian army. He burned the magnificent capital of Persepolis to the ground and claimed the throne for himself. You would think the first thing a conquering Greek king would do is tear down the old system. But when Alexander sat down at the Persian king's administrative desk, he looked around and realized something. This system of satrap governors, royal roads, and standardized taxes was actually pure genius. If he tried to replace it with Greek administration, the whole empire would collapse in 5 minutes. So, Alexander basically did what any smart student does. He copied the Persians' homework. He kept the Satrapy System intact, leaving many Persian governors in power. He used the royal road to move his own troops and messages at lightning speed. And he kept the gold flowing, using the exact same tax structures. The Achaemenid Empire may have died on the battlefield, but its ideas survived. They created a blueprint for running a global superpower that the Romans, the Ottomans, and even modern governments would eventually borrow, proving that while swords can conquer the world, it takes a really good spreadsheet to actually rule it.